These garlic-filled noodles are dripping with garlic butter with an Asian twist. It's the ultimate garlic shrimp or prawn noodles. It's a garlic shrimp noodle, the ultimate garlic shrimp noodle. I'm saying shrimp a lot, but it's prawns. Prawns and shrimps, shrimps and prawns. But more importantly, we're starting with a whole load of garlic, all finely chopped. You can see that is a lot of garlic. I'm gonna finish the garlic sauce off with these Chinese chives. So I've got these Chinese chives here, a little bit more vegetable-like than a Western chive, but a great natural garlicky flavor too. Some spring onion, again, finely chopped. It's a great time to talk about our sponsors, Neff. So we're starting on the induction here because I'm going to blanch my prawns and I want my water to come up to heat really quickly. You can actually keep the heat across the whole hob. And if you haven't used the induction before, it really does get a pan of boiling water up to speed in seconds. So that was literally less than 30 seconds and it's come to boil. Now these prawns, I'm blanching them just to sort of get rid of any sort of impurities or solid impurities, so it's nice and clean. Each prawn is nice and clean and crisp. I don't want to overcook my prawns, but you can see the scum sort of forming on the top of that water there. So at that point, just remove your prawns and straight into cold water. Let these cool, and they'll have a nice clean bite. Now this Neff gas wok burner is great for a round bottom wok because it's got this added wok ring accessory, just allowing it to sit perfectly on top of the gas. Now I'm going to start by stir frying my noodles. I've got these lovely egg noodles. You can use egg noodles or alkali noodles, whichever you want, but they've already got a little bit of oil around them, these fresh egg noodles. And I'm going to stir fry those to heat them up and serve them up straight away before I then make a sauce, that garlicky, buttery, prawny sauce. Smoking hot wok, my noodles can go straight in. And as I say, I'm just kind of warming these noodles through, not adding any flavour into them because the garlic sauce is where all the flavour is going to come from. I'm just going to add a little dash of light soy into the noodles. I use the rest for the actual sauce. And then I'm going to serve those up. And they're ready for my garlic sauce. Now, this garlic sauce is the ultimate garlic wok fried sauce. But I'm going to turn the heat down to a low heat now. But to start frying the garlic, I'm going to use just some vegetable oil. Low heat, garlic's in. I'm kind of stewing this garlic in the wok so that it doesn't burn and crisp up too quickly. Now, whilst we're on a low heat, my garlic is kind of just turning that lovely sort of light brown colour. I'm going to add a whole load of butter. And this will melt through on that low heat and create a wonderful garlic butter to die for. And that mixture of the butter and that slight bit of vegetable oil just prevents it from burning too quickly. And that frothing, it's a good time to start to add the rest of my seasoning ingredients. Some oyster sauce, light soy, some rice wine. And if you're used to the channel, you'll realize that this is a very odd thing to me to be doing in the wok. Little drizzle of sesame oil. I'm just turning the heat up, giving that a good mix through. Look at that. With that oyster sauce, the butter in there, the light soy, it's all quite salty. So I'm just going to add a little bit of sugar for a nice balance, because garlic in itself has a great sort of natural sweetness to it. And then I'm going to whack the heat up slightly, add my prawns, which remember have been blanched already. And on this higher heat, I'm just kind of allowing that buttery sauce to sort of mop around all those lovely prawns or shrimp. I can smell that garlic starting to caramelize now. And at this point, once you've got this almost sort of the syrupy golden brown colour, I'm going to have this on a high heat and add a little bit of chicken stock. Now bring that to a vigorous boil. Once you've got this almost creamy texture in that sauce, then all my chives, my Chinese chives and spring onion can go in. One quick stir through, don't overcook them, and then pour them straight over your noodles. The ultimate garlic prawn noodles. I'm gonna get a good bit of that garlic butter sauce. Oh wow. Wow, 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 wee wow. Let us know in the comments below whether there's anything that butter doesn't make better. First thing I'm going to do is actually remove the prawn heads and shells. So if you have got whole prawns with all the shell on, the head and shell adds a lot of flavour to your stock. Now, I'm actually using chicken stock to cook this, but you could just use a bit of water and it would make its own sort of shellfish stock straight away. The nice thing about this with the shells is it really doesn't take long to boil up that stock and get a lot of flavour out of them. So here's my little trick on peeling prawns, is that if you sort of apply pressure over the top with your fingertips and just break up the legs with your thumbs, and then in one movement you should just be able to pull that out like so. It does require that sort of pressure from the top to pull it out so easily. One of those jobs in the kitchen that a lot of people hate, but at least this little shortcut should help you guys out.
Armpit hair coming.
I've always wanted one of them. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mum. So, I'm actually going to get these prawn heads cooking. A little bit of oil, not too much. And then straight into that. They don't need to sort of crisp up or anything. You just want to get the flavour out of them. So, whilst those shells are going, I'm going to get some spices and flavour into this soup. Ginger, garlic and galangal. Look at that, really nice and fresh there. And some lemongrass will all sort of really make this dish in the soup super tasty. Super tasty, get that? Yeah. So your ginger can just be nice sort of rough slices. We're going to sieve this through anyway, so that can just go sort of straight into it. Your garlic, similarly, you don't really need to do much to it other than peel it and go straight in. Galangal, it's pretty tough galangal. You don't need to peel the galangal, just slicing's fine. So I'm going to get that in half first so it's easier. So a good amount of galangal, again, straight into the stock. Your lemongrass is really, really easy, guys. So get your week's anger out on the lemongrass, and then just bend that round, pop that in there as well. So loads of lemongrass, galangal, garlic, ginger, all in there. The other two bits that are really important, because it is a spicy soup, are your bird-eye chilies. I quite like just opening them up because they are going to boil for a good sort of 20-30 minutes. They will add spice, but it won't be sort of blow your head off. But if you are from Thailand and you're used to that heat, then you might want to finely chop that. So that can go in. Give that a quick stir. And then the rest of the stuff is all really easy. I've got some whole lime leaves here, which I'm also going to pop into that. And then just the stock. So I've got chicken stock, or as I said, if you've got loads of prawn heads like this, you could just use water and it'll make a lovely soup as well. Bring that to a boil. Then we start to add our sort of extra chili flavour from the Nam Prik Pao, which is basically like a Thai chili paste. A couple of tablespoons of your Thai chili paste in there. You want your Tom Yam soup to be nice and spicy. So once it's brought to a boil, just bring that down to a simmer. So the only other thing I have to do now is sort of get the rest of my mushrooms and veg ready, butterfly the prawns, and everything else from there is really easy. A couple of limes. You can make it as sour as you want, really. Got some chestnut mushrooms here. Again, any sort of mushrooms you want to put into this work very well. I've actually got some straw mushrooms as well, which will pop into it just in the last 5 minutes. And then my prawns, they're quite big prawns these, so I'm actually going to butterfly those and just cut them in half. Devein those at the same time. And they'll cook up really quickly at the end, so the last sort of minute or so will be fine because I've cut them in half now as well. As with any stock, any sort of scum at the top of your stock you want to get rid of. So just skim that off the top. Try not to take any ingredients with you. You can really start to smell that savoury flavour from the prawn shells coming out already. And you can boil this for as long or short a time as you want, really, but minimum of 5 minutes works to get the flavour in. And 20 to 30 minutes on a prawn or fish stock, I think, has a nice balance to it. After sort of 10 to 15 minutes, you can start to sort of season and give it a bit more texture. We've got some evaporated milk here, which gives it that sort of slight creaminess. Give that a stir. So you want to bring that to a boil. So you're going to season that with some fish sauce, 2 to 3 tablespoons. Lime juice we'll keep till last, just so that evaporated milk doesn't split. So this is a good 20 minutes or so. You can just take out all the chunky bits before I start to finish off the soup and season up with my lime juice. It really is very warming and hearty. If you wanted, you could, make it into a full meal, put some glass noodles in there or something like that, just for a quick dinner. So that's nice and clear of all the bulkier ingredients. My mushrooms can go straight in. Leave the prawns until the last minute because I have sliced them in half and they won't take long to cook at all. So bring that to a boil for another sort of 2 to 3 minutes. Lastly, your prawns. As I said, they shouldn't take long at all. 1 minute is all you really need. Let that come to a boil, and then I'm going to switch that off, take it off the heat, let it sit for a couple of minutes before I then squeeze my lime juice in. Lime juice. Keep this till last so the milk doesn't curdle, but also so that it keeps that sharp, sort of tart, sour flavour. Let's get a whole lime in first, and then have a little taste. Lovely. I think you could do with one more. Okay. Oh yeah, now that's hitting the spot. Great, good amount of heat, nice and sour. Ready to serve. Get a couple of those prawns in there. Coriander and chilli are nice garnishes. Really nice, easy Tom Yam Soup. So clearly Moorish. I love how light and fresh it is. This week it's all about summer rolls with lemongrass beef. So I'm going to start off with your marinade for your beef. I've actually got some flank steak strips here, which will go really nicely in the summer rolls. They're nice and thinly sliced already. So bash your lemongrass and finely chop this up. I'm not going to do too many, so I'm just going to use one stalk of lemongrass. If you bash it, you can use the whole lot, rather than have to sort of sit there and peel every outer piece off. Make sure it's really finely chopped. And we've got a good bit of garlic in here. I'm going to use a bit of garlic for the Nuoc Cham dipping sauce as well. Whether it's for the marinade or the dipping sauce, everything's got to be finely chopped. The lovely thing about summer rolls is that because they're fully wrapped, you can pretty much put whatever you want inside. So, you know, you could have them completely vegetarian, or if you want to add a bit of texture into it, which is what we're doing here, then, you know, wrap these strips of lemongrass beef into it. When we were in Ho Chi Minh recently, we had, you know, things like beef wrapped in betel leaf and then wrapped into a summer roll, or we just had sort of rice paper that was a little bit thinner than this and probably more fresh, just sitting on the side of most meals that you could just wrap whatever you wanted into. It's almost like the carrier to any type of food. So you want a good bit of that garlic for the marinade. That goes with the lemongrass. The rest can go into my dipping sauce. Chili. Again, a little bit into your dipping sauce. And if you want your beef to be a bit spicy, then I'll use the other for the marinade. Just going to cut that a little bit finer, just so it spreads across the marinade a little better. So, just to remind you guys, lemongrass, garlic, chili in the base of that marinade. The rest are really simple. I've got a bit of fish sauce, half of which I'm going to go into there, the rest for the dipping sauce. Palm sugar, balance out the saltiness of that fish sauce. I've got about a teaspoon into the marinade, and then a little bit more in the actual dipping sauce. Some people ask where we get soft palm sugar from. It's soft when we first open it because a good palm sugar comes with a sort of wax on top that keeps it nice and soft. But once you've opened it and, you know, kept it out in your cupboard for a while, then it will start to harden. My Nuoc Cham dipping sauce is pretty much there. I'm going to put a bit of lime juice into that as well. A good bit of lime. What you want is a nice balance of sweet, salty, spicy, all in one. We've got some homemade pickled purple carrot and daikon as well, and radish. So we're going to put that into the actual summer rolls, which will look beautiful and add a bit more sour. Right, so my dipping sauce is nice and ready. Now all I've got to do is marinate my beef. As I said, I've got these strips of flank steak here. You can keep the fat on, but I'm actually going to take this off because I want it. It's a summer roll at the end of the day, so I still want it to be nice and sort of clean feeling, even though I've got meat in it. I'm going to just slice that in half there so we've got nice strips. They'll obviously contract a little when I cook those through. I'm just going to sear them quickly in the wok. So I'm going to get that into the marinade. And then just give that a good rub through. Get all that flavour and the palm sugar, the fish sauce mixed well into that. If you had a bit of time, you could cling film this and put it in the fridge overnight. That would pack even more flavour in, but it's, fish sauce is quite strong, so you'll get good flavour almost immediately anyway. So my strips of beef are ready for a quick sear in the wok. So I'm actually going to oil the beef rather than the wok, because then ideally the beef will char well, but the oil won't burn too quickly. So my wok's really high heat. And I do want it to char the beef. So I'm just going to lay those nice and flat in the wok. Kind of like using the wok as a sort of tabletop barbecue, really. That smells delicious. Just going to sear that nicely, keeping it on a high heat. You don't want to overcook this, so you can see how quickly that's charred. That's from the caramelization of the palm sugar there. So that's done really quickly there. 30 seconds on either side should do the job on a high heat. So I've got my rice paper rolls, and the reason why they've got this crisscross shape is they're essentially sort of, when they're made, they're dried on a bamboo sort of basket, I guess. So what you want to do is just dip your rice paper in a bit of hot water. Over the next sort of minute or so, that will start to sort of absorb all that water. A little bit of lettuce. Got some home pickled veg. So this is actually a combination of pickled daikon, carrot, and some radish. So not only is it great for colour, but texture and that sour flavour is going to really work well with the lemongrass beef. A little bit of rice vermicelli into the centre, and then a few picked mint leaves. You can use whatever herbs you want, really. And by that time that you've sort of layered it up, you should be able to grab your pastry and then start to roll. So you roll to the centre, and you can see that lemongrass beef in there. And then you're going to bring the sides in nice and tight. And you can see how sticky this is now, which is great because it's nice and easy to roll. At the last part, it's just roll and tighten. So roll it up, tighten it a bit more, roll it up, tighten it a little bit more. Try not to break the pastry whilst you're doing it. And then your summer roll is ready to go. So it's nice to have sort of a combination. Once you slice it in, it will look beautiful. So it looks really lovely and pretty once you cut them in half. That pickled veg in there. Really nice and simple, but with the flavour of that beef, it really, really stands out. Got your Nuoc Cham dipping sauce on the side. Lemongrass, beef, summer rolls. I'm very excited by this. The combination of the pickle and the lemongrass beef It's absolutely perfect. Actually, because of that flavour, barely even needs the sauce. Got a nice bit of coriander seed flavour from the pickled daikon as well.